Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. Let's talk about Elon Musk and this Nazi salute. The corporate media are not talking about it. He did it in public at one of the inauguration celebrations. Yes, and he did it more than once. The ADL, instead of attacking him, calling him an anti-Semite, they said he didn't really mean it. They swept it under the rug. They don't let people off the hook. What is the deal with that? So let's talk about this here on AM 950 Radio, and I want you to meet me on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social, santitajackson.bsky.social. And I'm at Santita J, yes, on X. I'm still there. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody like and share. Shalom, Robert. Like and share, like and share, like and share. And the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Everybody, the Santita Jackson page can't take anybody else. I can't confirm you. I confirm you and then they kick somebody else off. Help me, help me, help me, help me. Please, please, please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. So let's get right to it. Carol Soskin, how you doing, my sweet? We've got Jim Narakis of Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, attorney Mark Fancher. Let's talk about this. This is perhaps our preeminent media watchdog organization, really. And I'm just so excited to always have you. And I thank you for being part of the family here. You and Janine Jackson and your team have done such great work down through the years. Jim Narakis, what happened here? I mean, I was reading Common Dreams and they said, and the quote is, "He is who we think he is." The headline reads, Elon Musk appears to do a fascist, i.e. a Nazi, salute at a post-inauguration celebration. While concluding his remarks, Eloise Goldsmith writes, at a Washington, D.C. celebration rally following President Donald Trump's inauguration on Monday, Tesla CEO and multi-billionaire Elon Musk raised his right arm with his palm facing down in a gesture that appeared to resemble a salute associated with the Nazis. Everybody knows what the salute is, everybody. He can be seen making the gesture twice. 2 cheers, I might add. The Anti-Defamation League, a group that combats anti-Semitism and they combat really people on the left, defines the Nazi and people are black. It defines the Nazi salute as consisting of, quote, raising an outstretched right arm with the palm down, close quote, which is what he did do. But this was their response. The ADL, Eloise Goldsmith writes, however, released a statement on Monday saying that Musk's gesture was not a Nazi salute. Quote, they wrote, it seems that Elon Musk made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, not a Nazi salute. They wrote this, in this moment, all sides should give one another a bit of grace, perhaps even the benefit of the doubt, and take a breath. Close quote. Jim Narakis.
Well,
did you see his salute? Did it look
yes,
like a Nazi salute to you?
It was a Nazi salute.
Okay.
And Elon Musk is a Nazi. His ideology is a far right, white supremacist, anti-Semitic ideology.
And he is from South Africa, apartheid.
Right. Right.
No one says that enough now. I think we gotta.
Yeah. He is currently engaged in promoting the Alternative for Deutschland party in Germany. This is Germany's neo-Nazi party. He is an enthusiastic supporter of them. He's given them a free platform on X to promote their electoral campaign. Last year, or actually 2 years ago, back when it was still Twitter, I think, he declared that the idea that Jewish communities have been pushing hatred against whites and Western Jewish populations support flooding their country with hordes of minorities must describe this as the actual truth. that's the core of the Nazi ideology. That is the basis of why Nazis blame Jews for all the problems in the world, is because they are uh, uh, either traitors to the white race or not really white people who are using minorities to undermine white civilization, and that is a critique that Musk endorses. This is, so the fact that he gets on stage and does a Nazi salute is in no way out of keeping with the views that he expresses. This is the part of the political spectrum that he comes from and actively supports. And as for why the ADL gives him a pass on this, is that the ADL is not a group that is opposed to anti-Semitism. The ADL is a group that is supportive of Israel. And for the ADL, if you are a critic of Israel, you are an anti-Semite. And if you are a supporter of Israel, it doesn't matter what you say about Jews, you are not an anti-Semite. As an example, this is from 1986. So this has been going on for quite some time now. You probably remember Bob Dornan, mm-hmm. who's a very strong right-wing Republican Congress member from California. And he was upset about Vladimir Posner, who's a Russian journalist who was Phil Donahue's. He had a show with Phil Donahue that was kind of like America and Russia talking together. And Dornan on the floor of Congress called Posner a disloyal, deceiving little Jew. Well, that is, he's. I don't know how you can describe that as other than an anti-Semitic comment, but the ADL figured out that this was not actually an anti-Semitic comment because Dornan was a passionate supporter of Israel. And therefore, he can go on the floor of Congress and call someone a disloyal, deceiving little Jew, and it's not anti-Semitic. So nothing you can say is anti-Semitic as long as you think that weapons should keep going to Israel. That is the ADL's position. And Musk he's not opposed to arming Israel, and therefore he can go up on stage, give a Nazi salute, and he is not anti-Semitic because that is what that's the ADL standards for what anti-Semitism is.
Well, what do you make of that, Mark Fancher?
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the collaboration between Zionism and South Africa goes way back. I mean, back when Israel was first just a gleam in the eyes of British imperialists, Jan Smuts from South Africa jumped on board right away because he recognized that it was part of the grand imperial project intended to preserve and advance the cause of white Europe and the white West, and he certainly wanted to be a part of that. And so there is an affinity between people like Elon Musk, who is going to support Zionism and Zionists generally. So yeah, I mean, I can certainly understand how and why that would happen. But beyond that, I have to say I'm delighted that he did this. Because the alternative is that he would do what most shrewd politicians and people who maneuver and do these kinds of things do, which is to hide his Nazism, to remain in the shadows and never be seen, and privately advise Donald Trump, and if not direct and order him. But when he comes out and he blatantly shows who he is, I love that kind of transparency. It helps people to understand exactly who and what we're dealing with, even for those who would be reluctant to believe that somebody who occupies such a prominent position in the life of the President of the United States would be an unapologetic Nazi. Now they can see it for themselves. And so that's a good thing. And I think that for the most part, the kinds of things that Trump and his ilk are doing so blatantly and so brazenly are all good things. I would rather have them do this in a clumsy, stupid kind of a way so that people can see what they're doing than to do it quietly and shrewdly, pulling the wool over the people's eyes. Because then when they do that, they become a Joe Biden who is a kindly grandfather who at the same time is sending billions of dollars in weapons to bomb the daylights out of Gaza, killing thousands and thousands of people. Give me somebody who's going to show his colors any day.
Jim Narakis, why haven't the corporate media talked about this? I mean,
Well,
if it were anyone else, this would be a huge story. He would be run out of the White House. He has a White House email address now, right? Now Vivek Ramaswamy, he didn't leave Doge, I suspect. I think he was pushed out. And now Elon Musk runs that all by himself, by executive order, by the way. And I just, why they're saying nothing. They are so quick to label people anti-Semites and to run them out of town, if you will, run them out of being able to make a living, right? Why haven't they touched this? I mean, they've left this alone.
well, I mean, he is the richest person on earth. He's got, he controls probably the most powerful social media platform still. And he has bought it for the purpose of having a platform that is unsurpassed by any individual. You know, he bought he bought Twitter, and then he rigged the algorithm so that if you're on Twitter, you'll be constantly hearing from Elon Musk, and he will deliver his propaganda messages to you. It's a lot of power to take on, you know, for something like, you know, CBS or the New York Times. Taking on Elon Musk is a formidable challenge, and we're living in a time right now where the establishment is not feeling like it's time to stand up and be heard. They feel like this is a time to knuckle under, to show that you are willing to go along with the new regime. You know, as evidenced by Disney settling a ridiculous lawsuit that was made by
Trump
against ABC.
Right.
I don't believe there's any way they would have lost that in court, given Trump's status as a public figure, and given the fact that you know, the judge in the case where Trump was found liable for sexual assault said that in effect Trump was found liable for rape. He said that in a as commonly understood, that's what happened in that case. So the idea that ABC would have lost to Trump on the basis of that lawsuit, I don't see it happening. But Disney thought it was better to pay off the Trump and stay in his good graces rather than stick up for their journalist. You know, Jeff Bezos, you know, who's the second richest person on earth, has has been currying favor in every way he can with Trump. He gave $40 million to Melania for her biopic. Now he didn't do that because he thought he was going to make more than $40 million off of the Melania story. He did that because that was a way to give $40 million to the Trump family. And that is the tone of the people who are the people who could stand up to Elon Musk are instead kind of hunkering down, hoping that being obsequious, being deferential, being flattering to the new potentate is going to save them, is going to serve their interests better than some kind of defiance. So I don't see where I don't anticipate them seeing an interest for themselves in exposing the far right ideology that is part of the new regime in Washington.
But Jim, he did it not once but twice.
Yeah,
he did the Nazi salute on stage at a public rally, attended thousands. They cheered him. I've known too many people who've been called anti-Semites, my father included, just down through the years. If you stood up for the Palestinians, you were automatically an anti-Semite. I mean, because that's really what it came down to with him. And I've heard it about everybody. And the media are fond of letting you know who the anti-Semite is, and they will grind you into submission and take you out of relevance so that you cannot make a living, Jim.
Right.
And what they have done, they have said nothing about this. They might listen to some of these shows and make mention of it, but they're going to leave him alone. Yeah. My question is, from you and from Mark, why? You know what? Because he's publicly the richest man on earth. Not to mention, no one talks about the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are richer than he is because they control more money. They control the banking system. King Charles, owns more land than any human being on earth. He's the only person. His mama, now he is the only person who is able to own whole countries. You can own your house, but you can't own the land throughout the Commonwealth. That's how they get their wealth. And you control, if you're on the water, you control the waters and everything in it. I mean, come on now. I mean, the wealthiest, most powerful people, you don't know their names. You know, and I know that, Jim, Mark, come on. But they have left this story. You don't talk about it. Huh? That's not, and then the ADL sweeps it under the rug. He didn't really mean it. He was exuberant. He was excited. Are you serious? Mark, somebody help me.
Yeah, I think that we have to understand that the mainstream media is not an independent watchdog institution. It is as much a part of the oligarchy as Elon Musk and Bezos and all of these other people. They're all part of the same club, and they collaborate in creating a so-called news narrative for the rest of us to consume. And the news narrative that they've been creating for us is that Donald Trump is the new boss of the country, and that all of these big rich people and corporate heads and others are going down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. They're not going down there to kiss the ring. They're going down there to give this man orders, to tell him what his agenda is. And so certainly if part of the agenda is being driven by Elon Musk along with his rich buddies, then his rich buddies include the owners of corporate media, and they're not going to do anything to derail the program or the plan. You know, some of it is pretty clear if you really look at it. Some of these ideas that Trump, has memorialized in executive orders and other things are not original ideas with him. These are things that these rich guys are telling him that he needs to do, including things that we think are outrageous, such as trying to retake the Panama Canal and acquire Greenland. These are ideas that come from them because these are things that they could never publicly advocate. These are things that they could never push and have people take them seriously. But they can take a bozo, a clown like Trump, and have him say it, and people just attribute it to him being off the wall. But he's still the presumed head of state and might actually be able to accomplish these things. They're in a war with China, and they don't like the influence that China has in the Panama region and in that region of the world. They don't like the influence that they have in Africa. They don't like the competition and the threat that's posed by Russia. And so, if they can reclaim strategic areas of the world that have geopolitical value, like Panama or Greenland, which can be used as a staging ground for intelligence missions and possibly an invasion of Russia if necessary, then this is to their benefit as global imperialists. And we have to recognize this for what it is. They have their perfect puppet in the White House right now. And all of this, they're flocking like flocks of birds around him, not because they think that he's the key, or that he has the key to their success. They're flocking around him because they all want to get in their particular agenda item for what they're telling him to do.
Well, Jim, I think he's onto something because, they keep us fighting with each other, right? And they keep us away from them. I mean, if you step back and looked at the rotunda yesterday, it was amazing. These were the wealthiest, at least in public. They were the publicly wealthiest people in the world, right there. And it's not, and I don't see the ADL afraid to take any of them on, but they'll take everybody else on. And I think that, Mark, you're onto something because we've got the narrative all twisted up. We keep thinking, Jim, that the president is the most powerful person on earth. They occupy the most powerful office, but they're not the most powerful people. It's some of those people that we saw, Jim, who really, they control everything. And they're trying to control our thinking. And that to me is what's most galling.
Well, one of the lessons looking back at the experience of Nazism in the mid 20th century is that the Nazi Party was seen as a vehicle for German industrialists to fight the threat of socialism and communism in Germany in the 1930s, and so they backed Hitler, who was seen as kind of a clown, as a person who made crazy statements and had crazy ideas, and they got him into power. And it turned out that actually controlling the state in Germany did give you a lot of power, and he was able to lead Germany into a war that was not a great deal for the German industrialists. It turned out that it actually resulted in the almost complete destruction of Germany's industrial capacity. And so I would say that the belief that rich people can use authoritarian politicians as their cat's paws is, I think, appealing to the wealthy elite. I think that history shows that is not always such a great bet on the part of the establishment.
Well, I mean,
I think that no, I think I agree with you 100%. I think that what's different now is that where you were talking about German industrialists, now we're talking about imperialists whose reach is much further than just their base in the U.S. And they're looking at not only controlling the planet, but in Elon Musk's case, he's already staked out a claim for Mars. So that he's no longer concerned or afraid.
He's going to colonize it, Mars. No, not to interrupt you, Mark.
Sure.
I mean, he's still a colonialist.
Yeah.
He's going to ship imperialism to another galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, and they have no fear or concern about destroying countries. I mean, if as a result of all that they're doing, they cause widespread war and destruction and the collapse of the U.S., they don't care. I mean, it's really all about just domination. And in fact, they probably would welcome widespread destruction and calamity because then it gives them an opportunity to go and build it all back to the tune of trillions of dollars, through disaster capitalism. So these are totally amoral people who don't necessarily factor into their analyses the welfare and the survival even of the countries that they deal with.
So, what do we do? I keep going back to this. So what does this say about, so then who is Elon Musk? The man who now has the White House email address, who is running this Department of Government Efficiency. I don't know if it's legal, but there's certainly an executive order to create it. I'm just trying to figure all of this out, Jim. Who is he? And because it seems to me he and Peter Thiel, and others, all of them South African or from Southern Africa, from the part of the world that was ruled by apartheid. It was not just South Africa, it was Namibia. Okay. It was Zimbabwe, which was Rhodesia. I mean, it was Southern Africa. It was controlled by Nazi figures, but they were, you know what? Before I even get to Nazism, Jim Narakis, let's not leave the United States. They were the slave masters. Because when you get there, at some point, I've had to tell some of my friends, I'm like, Nazism, I hear you. But see, Nazis learned from us. Okay. Yes. And they learned from how Black Americans were treated in the South and throughout the United States. That's how they learned that's apartheid was predicated upon what they did in the United States, Nazism and what they did to Jews and to millions of Africans, because they kept on moving now. That was predicated upon what they looked at us in the United States. They said, okay, this is how we do this.
Yeah. When the Nazis were drafting their race laws, when they came into power, they looked to the United States to see how to craft them, and their feeling was that the U.S. race laws were a little too extreme. They thought that the way that the United States defined race was too sweeping, and that there should be more leeway in the Nazi race laws than there were in the Jim Crow laws in the South. It is a startling when you look at the history. It's
Hitler's
quite
American
shocking.
model. I encourage everyone to read the book Hitler's American Model. Nazi soldiers were brought to the United States, and when they came to the South, they said, we did not even treat Jewish people this way. This is what we're dealing with. And then they shipped them off to Brazil, throughout South and Central America. They sent them all over the world, primarily to countries of color, and they have wreaked havoc wherever they have gone. And this man, and now this man is here, and Peter Thiel, they're here, and they're running politics. They're running the country, and they have no. They're not. They don't do America first. They don't care about it. They don't care about the country. They're just making money.
Yeah, but when Elon Musk is the richest person on paper in the world, and it's not because he's got more stuff than anyone else. He's got more. His wealth is in stocks. It's speculation. Wall Street has ascribed to Tesla and to SpaceX a value that is not, it's not based on the amount of production that these companies have, or the amount of sales these companies have. It's based on an idea that sometime in the future, Elon Musk companies are going to be incredibly productive and will reward people who have invested in them with the proceeds of that, which is it's very unstable. It's dependent on the faith in a kind of a narrative, if you will, about Elon Musk and what's going to happen with his companies. It's very fragile. These kind of paper fortunes can go away relatively quickly, and they are dependent on the government saying, yes, we recognize these kinds of investments as legitimate forms of capital. We're going to continue to give contracts to SpaceX to do our space exploration for us. We're going to continue to protect the Tesla's electric vehicle business from China, which produces electric vehicles that are comparable to Tesla's much cheaper. And if you allowed free trade between China and the United States, very few people would be buying Teslas. The company would be pretty much wiped out if they didn't have the United States government standing in as a protective force to keep competitors away from Tesla's business. And so to speak of people like Elon Musk controlling the government, it's at least at the very least it's a two-way street where Donald Trump needs people like Elon Musk, but Elon Musk very much needs people like Donald Trump.
But they
his fortune would not exist without
the government.
Yeah.
No. I mean,
saying.
I think we need to be honest. These are like, because they're like
a symbiotic relationship.
Well, it's not just symbiotic; it's also multi-generational. Because when you look at his wealth and where it comes from, Jeff Bezos is not unconnected. None of these guys are unconnected. They're all very, very connected people. That's why we never hear about their backgrounds. I mean, Bill Gates' mother was on the Federal Reserve of Seattle, was it? I mean, they're very, and father worked with the Rockefellers. I mean, they're very, very connected. These are not people who just pop out of the ground. And then they get access to all of this money, and then they help to run the government. It's like they're part of it. And then we can't get a word in edgewise, and we can't get the contracts. I mean, nobody has the space to move. They control everything. So I mean, I'm just and then I see people have had their careers wrecked, their lives wrecked, because they've been charged with anti-Semitism. And let us be very clear: anti-Semitism is an awful thing. Any form of racism is awful. Trust me, as a Black person, I know this. Every place in the world, I'm identifiable. We're the only people, Mark and I are the only people in the world who could never integrate into whiteness. That's why our ancestors' fight was for desegregation. Integration, I can't have that fight because I can never do that. Never. I marry a white person, have children, and guess what? Our children, they can be Hispanic and white. They can be white. They can be Asian and white. They can be white. Everybody can be white but mine. I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying I got it. So what's really going on here? What's really going on here? This guy can be a Nazi, can give the Nazi salute twice on camera in public at a rally, and no one says anything, and everybody acts like they didn't see it.
Yeah, well, I think that the idea that the point of Israel is to protect the Jewish people is one of the big founding myths of the military industrial complex. And I think the way that the ADL dismisses blatant, obvious anti-Semitism as not being of concern is really, it kind of gives away the whole project, that this is not about protecting Jewish people, that it's about projecting American power. And the ADL is part of the apparatus that protects that projection of power. And that's why, you know, when people clearly have an animus against Jewish people, it doesn't matter to them because their project is to support Israel, right or wrong, and support people who support Israel, right or wrong, and attack people, including many Jewish people who are critics of Israel. Those are, according to the ADL, the anti-Semites, because they have defined anti-Semitism as opposition to Israel.
See, I think Elon Musk is dangerous, and no one's saying anything. Mark?
Yeah, let's look at what's going on practically here. You know, Zionism is staggering. It's really having trouble. I know that they wiped out, you know, an entire region, and they've committed a genocide against people, you know, with thousands and thousands of deaths and all of that. And I know that you know, they've got a president that they think might continue to support them, but he might not. Because he's a wild card, he's erratic, he's unpredictable. They don't, and he's on record as not being too crazy about wars, and so they're not sure, and so they've got to look at the reality of the situation. They see that this president is not necessarily one that they can count on to continue to send billions of dollars and weapons to Israel and to continue to sustain and support their war. And then they've got this man who they know, they're smart enough to know that he's the one who's pulling Donald Trump's puppet strings. So if he wants to stand up there and throw the Nazi salute, then they're smart enough to know that they need to keep their mouths shut. This is the man that they need to be in good graces with in order to continue the flow of arms and U.S. support for Israel. They've got to do it, and you know, it's just the way it is. And you know, the way that we know that that's the way it is, you know, as you've been saying, Santita, historically, it has not taken much for them to react to anything that might be perceived as even a slight, you know, against you know, the state of Israel. That they jump and they pounce. They do whatever is necessary to, you know, check anything that suggests that somebody is saying something that's anti-Jewish or anti-Israel or whatever it may be. That's what they have as their mission. And it's not just with the people who do these things. I mean, in the past, when Black leaders, including your father, you know, have been accused of anti-Semitism, they weren't content with just demonizing Reverend Jesse Jackson. What they had to do is they had to make the rounds to all of the other so-called Black leaders and try and persuade them to denounce Reverend Jesse Jackson and to distance themselves from him, to make sure absolutely certain that this type of thing is not going to happen. Not anything, not even the least suggestion of anything that is opposed to their interests. So for them to step back and to allow this Nazi salute, I mean, even if hypothetically they honestly believe that this was just a clumsy mistake, then they would still be insisting that Musk
Absolutely.
make a public statement to clarify that that was not his intent. They would be demanding publicly that he apologize for it, even if it was an error. And none of that has happened. So this is calculated. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're being very pragmatic.
Well,
The
but also as anti-Semitism rages around the country and around the world. See, to me, this is dangerous because they're ignoring the their real enemies. That to me is what's dangerous. Also, I mean, beyond that, I mean, because what they did to Reverend and others, it's pure racism and it's unbridled racism. That's. I mean, you have to call it what it is. I knew what it was, and even you can apologize and all of that, and some of them will never ever forgive you. I get it, but and some people have some genuine fears, and I understand that too. I really do. But I know that when Mike Huckabee says something that's a little menacing, they don't touch him. When white people say something that's menacing, they leave them alone. But everybody else is strung up on the rack. And these are the people, we're not the Nazis. This
yeah.
Nazism did not come out of Africa. And it didn't come out of Black America. Jim, I mean, this
Yeah.
is
No, it's
awful.
I mean, you say the real enemies. The real enemies of the ADL are critics of Israel. They're people who would like to cut
Yeah,
off
yeah.
support for the mass slaughter of Palestinians. That is the enemy.
Wow.
You know the Jewish public has is very divided on Israel. There are many people. Some of the people who are most concerned about human rights in Israel, about the rights of the Palestinian people, are Jewish Americans, and to the ADL, those are not part of their people. Those are not people that they have a mission to protect. Those are the enemy. Jewish Voice for Peace. That is the enemy. Regardless of their Jewishness, that their Jewishness is irrelevant. And in fact, it makes them more dangerous because it exposes the lie that to criticize Israel is anti-Semitic. So I don't think it factors into the ADL's calculations about whether people are genuinely anti-Semitic or not, because that is not their agenda.
Well, should anyone be concerned about Elon Musk? He's not tied to South Africa. He is South African. He overstayed his H-1B visa, Jim. No one talks about that.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
overstayed. And okay, all right, but and now he's running things. He's the one who helps to push the replacement theory. Well, and that's what he's been doing.
Yeah.
He's been
I think
bringing
people.
people. I mean,
I think
what?
people should be very concerned about Elon Musk. I think that he is a very dangerous figure. I think that the platform that he has is very powerful. I'm not sure how one would measure this, but I suspect that the messaging that he was able to put out through Twitter was decisive in the 2024 election. I think that without the constant messaging, particularly the anti-immigrant messaging that went out through X, I don't think that Trump would have been able to make the inroads that he was able to make in traditionally Democratic demographics, and I don't think that Trump would be president of the United States today. I think that is as a direct result of the use that Musk made of his propaganda platform, and I think that's why Trump realizes the value that Musk, the service that Musk did for him, and that's why Trump has given him this hugely powerful unelected unchecked power to decide what parts of the government we don't need, what regulations we don't need. He is the fox that has been given free run of the henhouse.
Well, Mark, but you made the point, and Jim, I think you should hear this. He said, because Mark and Dwight McKee and Robert Patillo famously, or should I say infamously, said that neither Biden nor Trump would be on the ticket. And you were almost right. But you said you had to change your thinking. I've only got about 8 or 9 minutes left here. Explain who you think Elon Musk and all these other guys are.
Yeah, I think that my best guess is that the original plan was to eliminate both Biden and Trump from the top of the tickets. That neither of them were good for imperialism. Biden carried with him a lot of baggage, plus his age and infirmity and everything else, and he really did not play well around the world because of his close association with the Gaza genocide. Just too much there at a time when they would prefer to continue to operate under the radar and to continue to extend their tentacles into the far corners of the world in a very smooth, very quiet kind of a way, and that would not be good. Trump was not going to be good for their interests because he is so unpredictable and crazy, and they needed someone that was going to abide by the rules, who was going to follow the agenda for imperialism and follow the playbook. And they couldn't count on Trump to do that. And I think that at a certain, and I think they had plans to try and figure out a way to get him out of the way. But I think that at a certain point, they recognized that the appeal of Donald Trump was so widespread and so broad that they really couldn't afford to have him removed. Because then that creates a distraction that undermines their interest to do that. And ultimately, the best thing to do would be to allow him to go ahead and complete the election. If he won, then what they would have to do is they would just have to control him. And I think that once he won, then they quickly maneuvered in such a way that he was sure to always have a babysitter or a minder close at hand to make sure that he's carrying out the will of the oligarchy. And Elon Musk is certainly the most high profile, the first to play that role. But I think that there are others who are flocking around him who are also there for purposes of trying to make sure that he follows the agenda of the imperialists, the oligarchy, the military-industrial complex, and everybody else who has run the planet for as long as we can remember. And I think the signs of that are clear from some of the initiatives, the recent initiatives that Trump has unfolded or put on display that were never really a part of the kinds of things that he talked about in the past or that he contemplated. And these are coming from them. So I think that's what's happening. But the thing that concerns me is that as we see all of this unfold, it's easy for us to conclude that somehow we're losing ground, that these people are really digging in and establishing themselves in a way that they're going to win and that they're going to dominate the rest of us and take control. The fact is that because we can see what they're doing, because we're continuing to learn about who they are, which is something that we never knew in the past. We just knew that these were people that were lurking in the shadows, in dark rooms, in boardrooms and places, controlling things. We didn't know who they were. They're coming out into the light, and we can see them. We see what they're doing, and we're on a mass level gaining an education about the intricacies of imperialism and how it works, most specifically with respect to Zionism and the state of Israel and the pivotal role that it plays in controlling the planet. We're winning. The more that people know, the higher the level of their consciousness, the more aware they are and educated they are about how these things work, the better off we are. And it means that they're losing when they have to resort to these kinds of measures in order to maintain their control. So I would just suggest that everyone be very encouraged by everything that we're seeing. As I said at the top of the show, the fact that a Nazi who is that close to the man who presumably holds the instruments and the levers of power in his hands is a Nazi, and the fact that he puts it on display and we can see it is a good thing. Better that than he continues to masquerade as someone who has different views and who, because of that, is probably able to do even more than he normally would if the world didn't know who he really is.
Well, I think you've got a point. I think we must be awfully close because these people are awfully, they're pushing very hard to be seen. And powerful people, as you know, Jim Narekas, they don't do that. They prefer to be in the shadows. They don't like publicity. That's the thing you don't want. Jim, I only have about a minute and a half left here, so I'm going to let you close it out for us today. What should we be watching for?
I feel like we are living in. I think this is a dangerous time. I feel like I agree with Mark that there is some value in the unmasking, in the openness of the far right allegiance of someone like Elon Musk. On the other hand, I feel like he is emboldened to openly give a Nazi salute at a public rally because he believes that they have the ability to come forward now and be more open about what they're doing. On the one hand, they have a base that is willing to accept that and be heartened by it, and at the same time, they feel like they have enough sway over the information system that they can deny that that's what they're doing. So at the same time, they can make a dog whistle that is deafening, and still have people say, what beautiful clothes the emperor is wearing, because they have cowed the information system into going along with the pretense that what is very obviously an appeal to far right white supremacy is not that.
Well, you, Attorney Mark Fancher, Jim Narekas of Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, both of you are brilliant. And you're helping us to look at this in a way. I keep seeing brilliant come up on my timeline and my DMs about both of you. And I thank you for really giving us a much needed, really view of this. This is so important, just to really understand what we're looking at. I'm like you. I think it's a dangerous time, but Jim Narekas, but I also think it's a very hopeful time. I know that when Black people have had our backs against the wall, we've been our most courageous, and we've kept on going. And I think that's what all human beings have the capacity to do. And we've run out of road on injustice and on a system that is shaped by the wealthiest country on earth, and that has poor people, that has hungry people, that has people who cannot be educated, who will not be educated. It's not that they can't be. We've chosen not to do that. We drop bombs and not knowledge, not food baskets. We've run out of road on this. So think about that, everybody. And start calling corporate media and calling them out. You need to do that. You need to do that. And call the ADL out. Call them all out. This isn't right. It isn't right. So, Jim Narakis, a fair, everybody go to Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, fair.org. Fair.org. Give them your support. Mark Fancher, he writes everywhere. Attorney Mark Fancher. The name of your book, Mark?
The Negroes of Friends Village.
You're going to have to come on, I'm going to steal about 5 or 10 minutes for you to talk about that, because it's something that people really, really need to read, and they need to follow you so that they can read your opinions, because you are absolutely, absolutely brilliant. Both of you are. And I thank you for your service. How about that part?
Thank you, Santita.
So I'm going to go on over. Arun Gupta from The Intercept is waiting for me, so we can talk about what? There's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin, y'all. These mass deportations are coming in Chicago. So here we go. Sending you so much love. See you in the next hour, everybody.
See you.
Good night.